comics, culture, and cognac? This is Angouleme, France, the home of the Festival International de la Bande Dessinée d'Angouleme. As you might have read recently, there's been a bit of a kerfuffle over there, with the show coming up in just a short couple of months, really. Boycotts, girl cuts, control, government, money, all the good sexy stuff. Everything but yellow vests, so far. And now the government is jumping in. Why? Well, partly because it's France and the government jumps into a lot of things there. But also, the Minister of Culture has been called upon to help with the ongoing turmoil. Local politicians now are citing cognac as the reason the festival must be saved. Yes, you heard me correct. Cognac, a type of brandy. Courvoisier, for example. Why is that? Let's go back to the map. Look a little bit to the west of Angouleme. That's cognac country. By some estimates, there are 40 cognac houses, 3,000 active stills, and some 72,000 people whose livelihood depends on cognac. And yes, I recognize the inherent craziness of using the phrase active stills. 97% of what they produce is exported. It's a €3 billion business annually for the country of France. But there's something going on right now they refer to as the Cognac Crisis. 70% of the overseas sales of cognac go to China and the United States. Sales fell by more than a third to the US after 2023 due to what is classified as poor inventory management post-COVID. Then there's this year's tariff activities, we'll call them. In April, a blanket 10% tariff was placed on all imports from France. Then, a 20% tariff was threatened before there was a 90-day pause put on additional tariffs while Washington focused instead on tariffing China, and we'll get back to China and tariffs in just a little bit. Stay tuned. Still, the damage is done. Those 10% tariffs and the uncertainty of what might be next have caused imports to the U.S. to drop by 13% this year. Meanwhile, China raised a 35% tariff on French cognac that it says was sold to China at too high a price. Experts say this was just in retaliation for the European Union raising a 35% tariff on China's electric cars, which the EU raised because Chinese electric autos are subsidized by the state and thus inherently economically unfair. China eventually exempted the French cognac makers from their tariffs if, big if, they sold their cognac to China at the, quote, minimum price, whatever that happens to mean, but many of them promised to do so and those tariffs were dropped. So, the cognac crisis has caused a big drop in sales of the number one export of the region where Angouleme happens to fall. The thought of the region taking another hit by losing its big festival and all the money that comes into the area from that tourism is enough to get the local governments involved, and so they have. So sit back, relax, open a volume of Asterix, pour yourself un verre de cognac if you're of legal drinking age and you act responsibly, and ponder how the cost of Chinese cars to Europeans brought us to the point where the French government is playing peacemaker for a comic festival's civil war.